Hello YouTube! We're going to start this video off by violating one of my mottos, which is function over form. What we're going to do is form over function. And here we go. We have a perfectly functioning cover and a gasket. There's no drips. If you watched the video last week, you know that we did have a drip, and we placed the gasket behind the cover and it hasn't dripped. So we have a perfectly functioning cover. And what I'm going to do is take one bolt out at a time and put in its place a Torx head bolt, which is what should have been in this cover in the first place. They were in this cover in the first place, you just couldn't use them, the heads were all rounded out. These are all brand new bolts that I've powder coated black so they look like original bolts. So let's take a bolt out. I know it's silly, but I haven't put any anti-seize in this hole in two different bolt changes. These are new bolts and these are new bolts. So let's put a dab of anti-seize on the new bolts so that we can get them out should we have to. Torque spec is 20 foot-pounds. I got a comment in my last video that you should use a cross pattern when you take bolts out. And I do use a cross pattern, but what happens is I edit out a lot of these bolt tightenings and loosenings because it's boring to watch. So it may not look like I'm using a cross pattern because I'm editing the video. But here we go with a cross pattern. We'll take this next bolt out. Little anti-seize. Put our clamp back in place and screw the bolt in. And I'll get them all done now. Leave me a comment in the comments as to whether I'm crazy or not, but I think it looks better. This is an example of function over form. I don't know if these are original nuts or not. They don't match the nuts that are on the back towers. So I'm going to take these off, and I don't have the correct nuts, but I'm going to use lock nuts. They have been powder coated. Let's take this one off. Put the new lock nut on. And torque it to 45 foot-pounds. .45 foot-pounds as specified by the manual. By changing this last nut, I've changed them all. They all are now the same. And there we go, we're done. What to do next? Can't think of anything to do next. I'm standing next to this greasy thing and I gotta be careful not to get any grease on me. Maybe that's what we'll do next. Let's start cleaning up the motor. I've spent some time, I reinstalled the shifter and put plugs in every orifice I could find. And I think we're pretty ready for the first bath it's had in a while. And it's not snowing, but it's threatening rain. Here we go. If you look close, you'll see that it's raining out. It seems every time I work outside, it's snowing or raining. I've used this format in videos before, and I don't know if people like it or not. Leave a comment whether you like it. But what I'm going to do is follow the steps in the manual. First step, and there's a difference between the Cherokee, the Wagoneer, and trucks, and CJs and scramblers. On all models with automatic transmission, we don't have an automatic transmission. We can cross that one off. On models with manual transmission, remove the shift lever, trim ring, and the boot from the transmission and the transfer case shift levers. That's done. 3. Remove floor covering, if equipped, and remove the transmission access cover from the floor pan. That's been done. 4. Raise the vehicle and drain the lubricant from the transfer case. It doesn't say drain the transmission. It just says transfer case, and that's what we're going to do. Out comes the plug. Well, it's not brown. It's goopy. Oh, it's just because it's no air. There's still oil in this thing. I'm going to be cognizant of that. We'll put the plug back in. And the next thing we're going to do is take the transfer case off the transmission. And we're going to reseal this whole thing. It was so covered with oil that I have no idea what's leaking. So I'm going to replace everything. I'm not going to rebuild it. I'm going to reseal it. It worked fine. Number 5, position support stand under clutch housing to support engine and transmission and remove rear cross member. Don't have to do that. Number 6, disconnect front and rear propeller shafts at transfer case. Mark propeller shaft yokes for reassembly reference. Don't have to do that. Disconnect speedometer cable at transfer case. Don't have to do that. If necessary, disconnect parking brake cable at equalizer. Disconnect exhaust pipe support bracket at transfer case if equipped. Don't have to do that. Remove the bolts attaching the transfer case to the transmission and remove the transfer case. That we have to do. Turns out there's 3 nuts, 1 and then 2 more up here. This one is the hardest one to get to. I had to use a 12-point socket on the end of a breaker bar to get in to loosen the nut. And now we can sneak a wrench in there and take that nut all the way off. And as it's the hardest one, I'm going to take it off first. One nut and 1 more washer. Now we'll get the nuts on the other side. There's 3 bolts on this side. We'll leave this last one in just in case this thing wants to fall out, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. Well, loosened it up. There's 1 bolt. Now maybe we can use this. Yep, there we go. Now, I'm going to lower this to the ground so this has some place to go. I'm going to take this last bolt out, and I have a piece of wood underneath it in case it falls. I don't want to break the case, but I don't think it's going to come off that easy. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, the bolt's out. In the bag right away. Now, does it come off? No. We'll start gently. Nothing. There's a crack. I see a crack. Let's try a little more persuasion. We're going to be careful because it looks like it's aluminum case, so I'm just going to be very careful here. I'm doing this by hand. Okay, let's see what happens here. There we go. Well, that's not that bad. Well, I guess you don't have to drain the transmission. Every YouTube video I saw said you had to drain the transmission. These are the brackets that run from the engine to the motor mounts. And what we need to do is scrape as much gunk off as possible, then sandblast and powder coat. So here we go. Off we go to the sandblaster. This is what they look like out of the sandblaster booth, and we're going to go right to powder. This is old metal, so I'm going to skip the outgas. And in the oven they go. Minutes. All done, ready to go on the motor, but the motor's not ready to have the brackets, so we'll just put them on the shelf, and when we're ready to put them on, they're done. This is what they look like now compared to what they looked like then. I think we made an improvement. I think we have the transfer case cleaned up good enough so that we can work on it. And let's start with this bottom plate with our reseal. Okay. Doesn't look like they used any sealant on that. That may be a clue. Maybe we don't use sealant when we put it on. Maybe we do. All right, let's go to the sandblaster. With our bottom plate taped up on the bottom side so we don't get any powder on it, and a bolt through the drain plug so we don't ruin the threads, let's put some black powder on it. And into the oven for 30 minutes. Out comes the bottom plate. In go the bolts. Here's what the bottom plate looks like. And this is what the bolts look like that are going to bolt that bottom plate onto the transfer case. I believe we're ready to put this back together. I have the gasket laid out, how it's going to be on the transfer case. And we'll set this over here. I have the cover, which I can't pick up, with the drain plug already installed and a thread sealer on it. I have 9 bolts that have a dab of anti-seize on it and 1 bolt that I didn't. The reason I didn't is this is a through bolt into the case, and I'm going to put thread sealer on that one. But all the rest are blind bolt holes, so we don't have to worry about leaking. It's time to glue it up. Now I know the original one wasn't glued, but I'm not going to let that stop me from not having a leak. Now I've done this, I forgot which way goes. That side looks good. Oops. That side looks good. Now this thing either goes this way or where's the cutout? There's the cutout. It goes like this. Yep, goes like this. Anti-seize gets on everything. Little anti-seize on this bolt because it goes into the gear case. These get torqued to 15 foot-pounds, but I'm going to wait until the morning when the sealant has cured. I'm just going to snug these up, make sure it's in good contact, using a cross pattern, and then in the morning we'll come back and we'll torque it up. Got a new tool today. I'm going to try it out on the rear output oil seal, and here we go. We got to take the pinion nut off. Pull the washer out and see if the yoke will come off, and it does. Boy, is that dirty. I got some cleaning to do before I try to take that seal out. I got the area cleaned up, but we need more than a seal. This bearing is shot, so we're going to have to do a rebuild, and I don't have the parts or the time in this video to do that. So we're going to move on to something else, and we'll make a new video on rebuilding this transfer case. Let's switch gears. Let's take the transmission and bell housing off because I want to change the clutch. The reason I want to change the clutch is 2 reasons. When I drove it, the clutch was right at the top. Now I could probably have adjusted that, but it has 167,000 miles on it. I don't know if it has been replaced. So while I got it this far, I'm going to change that clutch. So to do that, got to take transmission off, and to do that, we have to drain the oil out. Last bolt, let's see if we can get it out without breaking the case. There we go. Last bolt. Well, I don't think the rear main's leaking. That's good. I don't have to go any further than the clutch, I don't think. Okay. I'm not taking the clutch off until I got a new one. Let's clean up the parts we just took off. A little paint thinner and some 3M. And that cleans up nice. That pretty much takes care of the outside. This inside is because the boot was broken. I've looked at the clutch. The clutch looks brand new. Doesn't look like there's any oil coming from the back of the motor. This is all from a broken boot. One final rinse, I think. Okay, I think we could install that. Made a discovery, which is not a good discovery. This transmission has been apart, and we can tell that because of the sealant here. A true survivor has had no major component taken apart. So the true survivor status of this Jeep is no longer. I'm going to still call it a survivor, but I will tell people that the transmission has been apart. I won't hide it. So, the cleaning starts. Now, I've high pressure washed this and used gunk several times, twice now. And this stuff is left over, and it's made up of sand and oil and heat, and it's stuck. And the only way it comes off is if I scrape it off. So I'm going to be here a while. I'll bring you back when it's cleaner. I have the case pretty well scraped down, and the next step is to start trying to get all this grease off, and we'll do that with paint thinner and a brush. And I'm going to be careful of these seals because I don't want to affect the seals with paint thinner because it's not leaking. This is all from the valve cover. I think I'm happy with that. It's pretty clean. I think I'd install it in my Jeep. Would you install it in your Jeep? It's clean all the way around. We didn't accomplish our goals this time around. We did accomplish crossing some tasks off, but the goal was to reseal the transfer case, and we didn't do that. But I think it was successful. If you enjoyed the video, there will be more. And in fact, There will be more.